Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news, and I think by this point, everybody knows that the Nintendo Switch is an absolute beast. It's selling at a record-breaking pace, but to the extent is insane, and we're going to talk about that later, and also Monster Hunter Rise. The demo released last night, and as I keep saying, this game will be one of the biggest releases of 2021, and now I'm more confident than ever before saying that. It's going to be an awesome year for Nintendo fans, and it's already starting off in an exciting way, so we're going to go over all of that today, plus more. We got a new Xbox IP to talk about, an upcoming PS5 exclusive, and a true next-generation leap in terms of graphics. But first, let's get into some of the quick news, starting off with King of Fighters 15. SNK has been teasing King of Fighters 15 for the last few weeks, promising a gameplay reveal, and, well, technically, they were telling the truth. We did, after all, get a new gameplay trailer for King of Fighters 15, though there wasn't really much gameplay. This is mostly cinematic stuff showing off its characters and visuals, but luckily we're only going to have to wait one more week before the next trailer drops. I really hope the next reveal shows some actual gameplay, but even then, I think this reveal's telling. First off, the visuals look so much better than King of Fighters 14. It's a night and day difference on how much better this game looks. It's more colorful, it's vibrant, and it's just very pleasing. It just looks like they have a real budget this time to make it a premier fighting game, and that's the thing. They once again have said they plan on shipping King of Fighters 15 in 2021, and I think this is the perfect release window for this game. I mean, if you look at this year, there's not really any big fighting games planned, which means King of Fighters 15 could be one of the first big fighting games to release on next-generation platforms. Now, we don't know what platforms it'll release for, but if I were to guess, it will at least be on the PS5 and PC. Hopefully it comes to the Series X as well, but there's no guarantees on that just yet. With that said, I do like what I saw in this trailer, but now I want to see some real gameplay. Fighting game mechanics are extremely important, so I want to see what's going on with the mechanics in specific. I have to say though, I'm rather optimistic about King of Fighters 15. Moving on, let's talk about a new unannounced Xbox IP. So there's always that question of what is Xbox working on? They acquired all of these studios in the last couple years, but we haven't really seen much from them yet. Well, we did get some new details on InXile's next game. Now, InXile is a phenomenal RPG studio. They have a lot of history working on RPGs with some longtime veterans. Some of the studio's past work includes Wasteland 3, which was one of 2020's best RPGs. They worked on Tide of Numenera, and of course, The Bard's Tale. One thing to take from these three games is that they know how to build great RPGs, but they've never really had the budget to make something more expansive until now. This is the exact reason why I think InXile is going to surprise some people this generation. They certainly have the potential, and now they have the budget working under Microsoft, and that's why you might be excited to hear it sounds like they're working on a big AAA first-person shooter RPG using Unreal Engine 5. They posted a job listing searching for a lead gameplay engineer that is responsible for new first-person shooter gameplay features. Previously, we knew it would be an RPG, which isn't really all that surprising, but now it looks like it will be set as a first-person shooter. So it could be something like Cyberpunk 2077 in terms of gameplay. If you really start to think about it though, Microsoft is starting to corner the RPG market. They have a lot of big RPG studios and games now. Fable, Avowed, Bethesda Games, and whatever InXile is working on. Definitely some exciting times if you're an RPG fan. Next up, let's talk about an upcoming PlayStation 5 exclusive, Returnal. So there's been some mystique around this game since it was first announced. When we got our first glimpse of Returnal, it almost looked like it was some kind of horror-esque game, but then later on they announced that it was going to be a roguelike game where if you die you start back from the beginning. That was a little unexpected, and now we've gotten a few trailers which shows its fast and frantic gameplay. I think the atmosphere itself is kind of spooky, but this is a very fast-paced game, which is a little surprising in a good way. I personally like what I'm seeing. The studio behind Returnal is Housemarque, which is very well known for making high-quality games such as Resogun. Resogun to this day is believed to be one of the, if not the very best PS4 launch exclusives, and it looks like Housemarque is going to try to repeat that success with Returnal. It is supposed to release on March 19th, but it's interesting seeing Housemarque make that jump to a AAA experience. In the past, they've mainly worked on smaller arcade-like experiences, but you can clearly see some similarities with Returnal and some of their other games. It's fast-paced, there's bright neon lights everywhere, with enemies attacking you in all different directions. And that's not by accident. Returnal game director had this to say, and I thought this was really interesting. We have accumulated a lot of knowledge, and perhaps even a bit of wisdom, in how to create these arcade experiences over the past 10 years, and of course, we are being mindful of sticking to those traits and just transferring those to more, let's say, a AAA package or to a third-person perspective. So here he kind of explains that even though it is a AAA experience, they're still sticking with their arcade roots, and I find that to be extremely refreshing. In an age where games are becoming more and more cinematic over time, it's nice to see a game like this try to blend the two experiences together, hopefully in a successful way. Knowing this is coming from House Marquee though, I have some confidence in Returnal. Again, it releases on March 19th. How about the PS5 though? They've had a good start to this generation. Demon's Souls, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Sackboy, Astro's Playroom, and then you have Returnal and Ratchet & Clank coming soon as well. PlayStation has done a very good job with their exclusive lineup, and I'm really hoping Returnal continues on with that. Let's talk about Nintendo though, because the new Monster Hunter Rise demo just released yesterday, and there's a good chance you might have had some trouble downloading this game. And that's because the Nintendo eShop was down for several hours after increased traffic hit Nintendo all at once. Yeah, this is no coincidence. You've now heard me say this several times on the channel, but Monster Hunter Rise will absolutely be one of the biggest releases this year, and we're already seeing the critical mass jump onto its limited time demo to the point it broke the Nintendo eShop. Nintendo Japan themselves reported the eShop outage, and that's no surprise considering how popular it is in Japan. However, there was also outages being reported in the United States, and I find that interesting. It kind of shows you how much Monster Hunter has increased in popularity worldwide thanks to Monster Hunter World. You have to remember that game sold more than 18 million copies worldwide. Now, because Monster Hunter Rise is only on one device, I'm not sure how it's going to compare in the long run, but I do think it's going to put up some insane numbers and might sell more in Japan than what Monster Hunter World did. The Switch is huge in Japan, so I think it is possible Rise could sell more in that region. You have to remember that this is just a demo, and we're already seeing high demand though. I will say that doesn't bode well for online play day one. I was hearing some complaints about online connectivity, but that's kinda typical for day one releases when there are a lot of players jumping on all at the same time. Maybe not for demos per se, but hopefully they get that ironed out. Nonetheless, this isn't only impressive in terms of how successful the demo has been, but it's also a really good game. Dare I say, it might even be better than Monster Hunter World. It has a lot of new fun features, including riding monsters around, increased mobility, and if you haven't played it yet, I would highly encourage you to do so. Speaking of the Nintendo Switch though, I made several videos last year talking about how much the Switch is dominating, and that's because it truly has been. Much of the year it was selling out, and not just during the holidays. Pretty much as soon as Animal Crossing New Horizons came out, it was hard finding a Switch from that point forward. That typically doesn't happen in a console's third year on the market. Sure, it happens in year one as demand is extremely high, and it's hard manufacturing that many consoles in a short period of time, but Nintendo has knocked it out of the park with the Switch. It's got an absolutely genius hybrid console design with a great library of games. Now, admittedly, it did have some help with the increased demand in games due to people being stuck at home more last year, but you can say the same about Xbox and PlayStation. Everybody was on an even playing field, but just how successful was the Switch in 2020? Well, check this out. Apparently, it sold more than the Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5 combined in the UK. Yeah, you heard that right. It sold more than every other console combined in the UK. That is crazy, and it just kind of goes to show you how good of a job Nintendo has done with the Switch. Now, I do want to point out though that PlayStation and Xbox also had great years. This isn't like they weren't doing well or something like that. In fact, it's being reported that the Xbox Series X and PS5 sold more units in November than what the Xbox One and PS4 did during their launch in November in 2013. I imagine they would have really blown those numbers out of the water if they could produce even more units, but as we all know, we are in unprecedented times. It's been an overall great year for gaming though, so congrats to everybody. Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox, you all did a phenomenal job, and brought joy to much of the world in a very difficult time in history. So thank you for that. On to our last topic though. The Xbox Series X and PS5 has been out for about 2 months now. Both have been fantastic consoles, but some fans are looking for that premiere experience that really shows the next generation leap in terms of visuals. And interestingly enough, it's actually some of these last generation games that shows the true power of these consoles. One reason for that is because you can directly compare it and you can see and feel how much better it looks on the Series X and PS5. A couple weeks back, I talked a lot about Gears 5 Hivebusters and how amazing that game looks, and today we're going to talk about Destiny 2. So Destiny 2 got a big next generation update last month, and there hasn't been much talk about it, but I think that's about ready to change. So Digital Foundry did an analysis for Destiny 2's next generation update, and for the most part, it offers you exactly what you'd expect. A buttery smooth 60 frames per second gameplay with 4K resolution. The PS5 seems to hold 60 frames per second, just a little bit more, but honestly, there's not much of a difference, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. The big change, however, and this is something I've mentioned in the past on a different game, I believe it was Sea of Thieves if I'm remembering correctly, but it's the field of view slider. Not many people are talking about this right now, but field of view is going to be a dramatic improvement with these next generation games if developers include it. This has mostly been a PC thing in the past because field of view does affect frame rate, but now consoles are powerful enough to let you see more things on the screen, and Destiny 2 does just that. You can crank your field of view all the way up to 70 to 105 and still maintain high frame rates. It is a staggering and stunning difference. I'm seeing a lot of people being absolutely blown away by this feature, and it's a true next generation leap. Some are even claiming it feels like playing an entirely new game, and I can understand that. It is a huge difference. Bungie certainly did a great job with this update, that's for sure. If you are looking to see how much of a difference it makes though, go check out Destiny 2 on the PS5 or Xbox Series and see why fans are raving over this just so much. I just hope from this point forward, developers continue to include that field of view slider because it truly does matter. It makes things feel a lot less claustrophobic and it's just a better overall experience. This once again though shows you the power of these next generation consoles, and it goes beyond just frame rate, ray tracing, and resolution. There's also other ways to make games visually more pleasing and feel better overall, and here we're seeing exactly that with Destiny 2 and the field of view slider. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.